Let me announce, anyone agree by the decision of this board, they may appeal to circuit court within 15 days of the board's decision. Also, no permits or license can be issued until that 15-day appeal period has expired and no appeal has been filed. Information regarding the board's decision or an appeal to circuit court, the Office of Land Use Administration will be your contact. As you come to the podium, give us your name and address, and if you'll direct your questions and statements to us, not to someone in the audience or to the staff. And there's a 5-minute limitation for speakers, usually four an application and 4 in opposition is the allocation of time. And I'll ask that everyone turn their electronic devices off or on silent so we don't have any disturbance during the meetings. And it also goes for the board members. All right, we're going to do roll call. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Coleman? Here. Mr. Metcalf? Here. Mr. Burrows? Absent. Mr. Milling? Here. Mr. Golden? Here. And I'm William Guess. It takes 5 to affirm a motion. We have 6 out of 7. So we have a quorum and a majority for an application. We have any split on the votes, we still should have enough to make a majority. And we have Mr. Anderson here representing us as our legal advisor. All right, we'll go in order. And the first is one that we've seen multiple times. 6020, 3149, 1870, McDowell Knight Rotor and Sledge, is that how you say it? Rotor. And this one is recommended for holdover again. I think
it's assigned to one of our new judges, and we've got a status conference. Yeah, I think sometime in March. So it'll just keep on
holding it over.
Yeah.
The president, it's been 6 months. You think that's sufficient? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Before I call for a motion, is there anyone here either in favor or opposition today that understands what we're being asked to do? Okay. I don't see anyone in the audience raising their hands. All right. Staff recommends hold over for 6 months. Works its way through the legal process. Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll go to the next. This is a holdover as well, right? Okay, this is application 6232, Building and Design. This is for 152, 156 South McGregor Avenue. You'll come to the podium and give us your name and address, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Peyton Harville. I will eventually be living at 152, which is Lot 2, McGregor Avenue. I recently, I'd say in the past 6 months, purchased what was a condemned house on this property and went through the proper channels here at this and had it subdivided into 2 separate lots. My intentions on Lot 2 is going to be my personal house, which is currently under construction, and here shortly I'm hoping to submit a permit to the city to build on Lot 1. As a builder, I recognize everything that needs to go into permitting and this, that, and the other for codes and government regulations. I took a walk this past Sunday, and those pictures, and I should have supplied more to you. Okay, good. Well, I didn't bring enough, and I apologize.
No, I think you're fine.
Those weren't random samples. Those were quite literally every single wall and structure from when I left my lot to the intersection of Old Shell and McGregor. There's only one I didn't take, which was a multi-family subdivision. And using the sidewalk maybe as a guideline, I think you'll see that every single, and I counted 20, every single wall, structure, gate, whatever you want to call it, was either on the property line or plus or minus 10 feet off of the property line. I guess what I'm asking you is, what I submitted to this is, ideally I was hoping for 10 feet, which would line up to the wall next door to me, but I thought I'd try to maybe give a little and ask for 15 feet off of the property line to build what is a 6-foot privacy, either brick or stucco wall, for what will, for the most part, be just a sense of security and buffer from McGregor for that Lot 1. I don't feel that it poses any hazard as far as safety, being that cool wall, because again, as you'll see in that packet, or really anywhere around the surrounding areas, whether it be Old Shell, just about every single wall or structure is right on the property line. That being said, if y'all have any questions, I would welcome to answer, and I appreciate y'all taking the time.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Metcalf.
I see where it says on the tail end of Lot 2, it says easement for ingress and egress. Is that easement for Lot 1?
That is, to the best of my knowledge, that is a city drainage easement.
Well, it says easement for access.
There is currently which I didn't erect, but where it says 349.79 feet, there is a cinder block wall from McGregor all the way down to that property. If we're talking. Oh, I'm sorry. So that, I'm sorry, I apologize. That easement, and they might can answer better, I believe when you request to do a flag-shaped lot, which we have here, the minimum easement is 25 feet to enter the back property.
Well, it's not an easement, that's the frontage. Right. So my question is Lot 1 accessed with a driveway, or will Lot 1 be accessed with a driveway onto McGregor, or is it going to be shared in common with the
There'll be the same existing curb cut on Lot 1 and Lot 2 will share the same existing driveway in that easement.
Okay. So Lot 1 will be accessed from that tail?
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? So how far off McGregor, off of the easement, will the structure on Lot 1?
And I apologize, I should have said that. The house, or soon-to-be house, is not going to be any closer. What I'm asking for is simply just the divider wall, the privacy wall. It will be a minimum of 25 feet.
Okay, so you'll have, if you do 15 feet for the wall, then you'll have a 10-foot
Just common space, buffer
setback
space.
between it, buffer, and
Correct.
between that and the adjacent home.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I want to point out that when Mr. Harvell went through the subdivision process, they actually requested a 45-foot building setback for Lot 1 from McGregor, which exceeds the 25-foot typically required. So they would not be able to build the house any closer to McGregor than that 45-foot setback.
I think, I don't mean to contradict you, Bert, but I think that's an old one. The one that's recorded actually has 25 feet. That was the initial request, and Poly Surveying resubmitted it, and it was, I guess, recorded with the 25-foot setback.
Okay, well, if that's the case.
And I agree,
then
that's what it says, but the one that's recorded is a 25-foot setback.
that would be fine then.
Okay. Let me look at the file real quick.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
while you're looking for that, Bert, why would the Planning Commission have asked for a 45?
The Planning Commission did not. It was submitted that way,
Oh, it was submitted that way from
at least initially.
Well, and I probably should be able to speak to it better, but that came from Poly Surveying recommending that we submit it with a 45-foot setback. He said they thought it might help grant us access, and I said, well, that kind of kills all the square footage on Lot 1. I'd rather put it at 25 feet and then see where we go from there.
And Poly Surveying may have recommended that because at one time McGregor Avenue was on the major street plan and required an 80-foot right-of-way, and that would have allowed for a future right-of-way acquisition, but that section has been removed from the plan now.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going with my question. All right. Once again, any other questions of the board? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone in opposition today? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, sir, before you sit down, I have, the pictures you provided, are any of those going directly to the east, the north or south of you?
Those would all be going north back towards Old Shell
Are any
Road.
of them adjacent properties, the pictures that you provided?
I believe the last one,
I know there's a wall that's kind of parallel to the property line.
sir, and to be
That's
honest,
the only one I'm aware of.
and
that's-
that particular one you're referring to, just to give you a reference, is at 9 feet. And then as you go down, you could kind of, I didn't really want to start.
Height is 9 feet or the setback?
The height is probably closer to about 8 feet, the setback's at 9.
Okay. All right, thank you again.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, has the board had opportunity to review the pictures that the applicant provided? Okay, discussion of the board? Looks like all throughout the staff has recommended for denial. All right, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve it. I live along that stretch, and I don't think that it is out of line. I mean, I think these pictures do reflect the accurate situation there, that they're consistent walls up and down McGregor Avenue. So I don't think it would be out of line, or I think it would be in keep with what's consistent along that stretch. So I move for approval.
Okay. How about coordination with traffic for line of sight for,
Absolutely, yeah. Coordination with traffic engineering.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries, subject to the conditions of coordination with traffic. All right, next application is 6233. Tom? Your name and address, sir?
My name is Tom Godfrey. We work at Epic Alabama Shipyard, and the address is 660 Dunlap Drive on Pinto Island.
Okay, and yours is recommended for denial with the statement in the staff's report that 100-foot height would be acceptable within the district, is that correct? For the flagpole?
100 foot is the maximum height allowed in an I-2 district. And
And it's specific to flagpoles or structures of this nature?
just structures in general.
Okay. All right. Sir, you want to proceed?
Sure. What I wanted to just is this is we have a new owner, Epic Companies. Is Tom Clark is the owner, very proud American, and he wanted to display an American flag at the front or the east side of the property, visible from Mobile and up and down the river. And with the vessels that we have and the cranes that we have on site at the shipyard, 100 foot wouldn't be visible because of the other cranes blocking them. 150 foot would give the visibility across the river and up and down the river. And that's what he's looking for.
Okay. Any questions of the board? What's the tallest structure other than the cranes? The buildings, warehouses?
It would be the buildings. The Goliath crane is a bridge crane, and that's 160 feet. The other cranes have booms on them that are around 150 feet.
What about the warehouses, the actual structures?
I'd say 75 is probably the tallest on the structures.
Okay. So it would exceed at 100 the tallest facility, not necessarily a crane or a...
Correct.
Okay. What's the proximity to, it looks like kind of have a,
Alabama State Port Authority is on the south side, and Austell's on the north side of the
now
facility.
how close to tallest crane? The Goliath, I think it was, Les?
I don't have that dimension.
Yes.
Right, that's the bridge crane.
Just south of that are the 3 or 4 blue.
Container, yes.
Container cranes.
Well, they're on both sides of the river. I looked in my window this morning, they're on both sides of the river.
Right, the very south end of the Pinto Island has the steel facility for Alabama State Port Authority.
I guess
of
what
large.
I was going with this, just for my point of reference, is of the cranes, how many are adjacent or within close proximity to where those flagpoles proposed?
Can you,
that they would
can
actually
you point out where the flagpole would be, ma'am? It's right in that area. Okay, so there's a crane at that pier is Pier G, there's a crane there. And then on the dry dock itself, the large dry dock, there's 2 cranes on it. And then on the Pier H between the 2 dry docks, there are 2 cranes there also.
Okay, so relatively close, there
Right.
would be cranes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Once again, any questions of the board? All right, anyone in the audience either in favor or opposition to this request? Okay, discussion of the board, comments?
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Bert, as far as from a planning perspective, what would be the reasoning for limiting it to 100 feet versus 150 feet? And I guess especially in this type of industrial type environment, I mean, is it a safety issue? Is it just consistency issue?
It's in the rules.
It'd be both. I mean, imagine everything at 150 feet. I mean, that the crane that you can see coming down Dolphin Street when you're at the top at McGregor, you can see that. So that is at 159 feet. The top of this flagpole would come to roughly the bottom of that horizontal span. It's a safety issue as well, but it is something that the board can consider. It's well within your purview to vary anything within the zoning ordinance. However, the maximum height in an industrial area is 100 feet, and it would still be noticeable.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Each of these cranes, the tallest is 160, my understanding. They have to get a special permit based on their height?
I dare say that existing one predates me and the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So it is definitely grandfathered. Depending on the crane, they're a piece of equipment and not an actual building or structure that have to go through any type of process in the city,
Well,
via
I'm
the
just
city.
thinking of the point regarding safety. They still have the same hazard of obstructions for,
They do, but if they're mobile, they can also be lowered and removed.
can I ask you a follow-up question? Thank you. Cranes have lights on?
Yes, sir, they all do have lights, aircraft, morning lights, yes.
Is it 144? What's the, I think it's in the 150 range that you have to have them lights anyway. Okay, that's
Thank you.
primarily my question. All right, any additional questions of the board? I know that cell towers, where we've had the disguised cell towers, they've been in the 140 to 150 foot range.
Well, and a cell tower is allowed to be 180 feet tall in an I-2 district by right.
Right. And we've had some discussed flagpoles
Yes.
for that purpose.
If, I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
If they were to erect this as a cell phone tower with a flag pole attached to it, would it be illegal? Would it meet the requirements?
Well, if it were a cell tower that appeared to be a flagpole and had a flag attached to it, yes, it would meet the cell tower requirement, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
move for approval.
I think it's call us a cell tower and it wouldn't be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I think I have a motion to approve the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
I look forward to seeing that
We had a
flag.
learning experience here, so you appreciate that. application 6234, Scott Services. Name and address, sir.
James Joyner, Scott Services Company, 7387 Ziegler Circle South.
Okay, your application's been recommended for denial. Would you tell us why we ought to consider otherwise?
It's just a, the revitalization for the Springdale Mall area. Burlington Coat Factory, of course, has been a large anchor space for that mall for a long time, and they're changing locations. They're just wanting to install a non-illuminated wall sign outside the entrance, just as a, you know, image branding type deal. It's non-electric, it's just more of the Burlington symbol outside the door.
What was the previous occupant?
This was the Best Buy, I believe, and the actual variance request, if you look at the graphic behind you, it is for this little B art symbol right here by the entry door. Through previous determinations when this was a Best Buy, the back part of the building has frontage on Springdale Boulevard, so they are allowed this sign on the back side here. So it's, the variance request is only for the small heart-shaped thing near the front entrance. That being said, we have talked to the new owners of the Springdale shopping center, and we have advised them that what they may wish to do, because they do have other tenants that would like to have more than a sign, is that they may need to come through the planning commission with a sign package as part of a plan unit development, similar to what McGowan Park has done. But the Burlington Coat Factory is moving faster, I think, than the current owners are ready to move.
But the actual Burlington sign will be on all three.
It's only going to be on two. It's going to be on the front facing the parking lot, and then there will be one on the rear facing Springdale Boulevard area. And so the very request is only for the small sign by the entry door.
For some reason, I thought they had three on the facility in the past, previously.
This is not the end building, it's
It's the middle one.
so they
Yeah.
can have any side.
I'm thinking the Dillards or
Yeah.
whatever the other was.
McRae's, yes.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant? So this is kind of like a marquee or a little.
Yes, sir.
Is
It's
it?
just a brand,
Brand.
their national branding logo.
Is this something as staff has recommended could be that particular request held over and until kind of look at signage as a package for the entire complex?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would ever, you know, happen. Burlington, they're scheduled to open up in, I think, mid-March. So, you know, they're getting ready to install all their signage and do their sign-offs and finalize everything before the opening.
Okay. From a square footage coverage, are they under by any chance?
I think they are under their total square footage, but I would have to check specifically. I don't think that's really the issue. It's just the fact that it's a
No, I
second
know.
sign.
That's something we always
Yeah.
consider, though.
Right.
Okay. Once again, any questions of the board for the applicant? Anyone in the audience either in favor or opposition today? Okay, we have none for the record. All right, discussion of the board? Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I can move for approval.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And chair votes opposed, but motion carries.
I vote opposed also.
Oh,
Mr.
okay,
Chair.
well, let's take that back then. We had 4 in favor of the motion and 2 in opposition. Motion fails. Therefore, the request has been denied, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I heard you, but who else? Our sign not?
Yeah, Mr. Melling. And myself. Did you get the record? Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next application. 6235. Ridley? This is Child Daycare Associates. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your vote. Your name and address, sir?
My name's Eric May. I'm here representing the daycare 09 South Washington Street.
All right, and by the way, for the board, I want to mention that you have appears one comment from, I think across the street, I'm not sure, but one in favor of the application. All right, sir, the staff's recommended for denial. Would you tell us why we ought to consider otherwise?
Well, there was a playhouse there to begin with, and we rebuilt the playhouse and made a little storage area to be able to put the tricycles in. It's 22-foot curb. The building that on the same property, the setback on it is only 10-foot off curb line. So I couldn't see where the fence in the sight line would be. They said something about a driveway being there, but the lady that's she don't use that driveway. She uses the driveway on the adjacent street on that house.
Okay, so you actually built the...
It was built. We went to the city, talked to zoning, talked to everybody, talked to Page, got a permit from historical to build it, and we started it and got it to that point, and then they told us we needed to come back to CRC and talk to them, and then we talked to them, and they said we needed to get a zoning ordinance on being built for sightline on that driveway.
Have you looked at this from a traffic standpoint, engineering?
We can only really look at it as far as the individual next to it, if it's a line of sight for them. Quite honestly, I did not look at it from their driveway and their perspective, but I do know that the building further down away from the driveway is right on the right of way, close to the right of way.
Okay, so this particular structure in question is not. It looks like it's...
It does not appear to be, no. Okay. Set back from the property line.
And the other thing is,
sir, before you... any questions for... Excuse me. Any other questions for traffic? Okay, proceed, I'm sorry.
the other thing was sight line coming out of that driveway. You got 2 live oaks in the right of way, and if anything blocks sight line, it's going to be them two live oaks. The building set's farther. It's where the fence line is. There's a column on the corner, a brick column on the corner, and it's at 7 foot off that, back behind it.
What's the setback again?
The setback for an outbuilding is the rear of the facade of the primary building on the structure. So essentially...
It would have to be behind the existing structure.
Right, and if you look at the site plan behind you, the facade of the main goes back and forth, but it would essentially have to be behind this furthest back line of the facade. So it would have to be shifted back 15 feet or so, probably, to comply with the Downtown Development District regulations.
So how far would they have to shift this again?
I think approximately 10 to 15 feet back. Okay. But it is built on a slab, and there are photos in the folder.
And they were trying not to pour more concrete because of their requirement for soft surface.
Right.
Okay. All right, any questions? Can we pass the pictures to the other members, please?
Sure. I do have a quick question. If it was moved that 10 or 15 feet, from looking at the picture, it appears it might get into the play area. Is that accurate?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
It will take some of the play area. There's a jungle gym and a socks. It'd have to eliminate them.
pictures. So originally, this was permanent.
Well, they received their certificate of appropriateness to build a playhouse, and I think based on the size, they were not required to necessarily get a permit from the permitting department, but they did not go through the Consolidated Review Committee, which is the primarily city staff committee that has to review any new construction within the downtown development district. So it doesn't meet the downtown development requirements.
Any questions of the board?
Bert, one other question. The 311 call that came in, was that from the adjoining neighbor? Do you know?
Those come in anonymously to us, so from whence it came, I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Follow-up question, was the call after construction or during construction?
It was during construction. The structure was under construction when we found out about it, and we had issued a notice of violation. I believe it continued, and I think we had to issue a second one before the construction actually stopped. But they stopped once they got the roof structure.
Okay. Do you understand there was a request to stop construction?
Yes, and then I proceeded down to the city of Mobile, went to zoning. Zoning showed the certificate and everything to them. They said nothing was needed. They said you might need to go talk to Paige. I went and talked to Paige over in Historic, sat down with her, gave her all materials that was going to be built, what was being used. She sold me a historic permit. She said, you're good to go. So we went from there, and then the following week, after we got the roof on it, then they brought another one over and said that we need to meet with the CRC. Then we met with the CRC, and they said the only thing in violation was the zoning being a site, and we had to get approval from y'all to be able to put it there.
Or to allow it to remain?
Yeah, to allow it to there, because they said everything we done probably with materials and building it to look like the houses in that area, and she said everything would pass as far as that goes, but we had to come to y'all first.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Bert, did you say that CRC did they have issue with it?
The issue, he didn't meet with the CRC until after he had received the notice of violations. So the CRC doesn't have an issue with the materials or the design, but with the physical location on the property.
And that rule is specifically what?
That outbuildings must be to the rear of the facade of the primary structure.
And is that where is that listed?
It is in the zoning ordinance site configuration table for the downtown development district.
For DDD?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to Triple D, it was not part of that?
Prior to that, it would have maybe been a B4 district or an RB district, so there would have been different standards.
Would it have been allowed in those districts?
In the B4 district, there were no required setbacks, but there might have still been historic district requirements that would have required perhaps some setback.
Okay, any further questions? All right, I'm not sure if I asked of the audience, anyone in favor of this application here today? Anyone in opposition? Okay, if you have a seat, sir. Your name and address, sir.
My name is Richard Browning. My wife and I own the property that's adjacent to the daycare center.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you have these pictures. I have a group of pictures that I have taken.
Go ahead and explain your
Contrary to what the other gentleman said a minute ago, the driveway that adjoins this daycare center is the only access to this property. There is no access on Monroe Street, which is the side street on the corner. The driveway of this house on Washington is the access and the only access to that house. There's a driveway, and it is immediately adjacent to the property line of the daycare center. And it is an extremely narrow driveway. It is barely wide enough to get one car in. When you are in there and you are either trying to pull out or back out, as you can see from the pictures that I've taken, you have no view of Washington Avenue coming in and out of this property. And as I'm sure most of you know, Washington Avenue is a very busy street. There's a lot of access from Canal into Government. It's a very busy through street between those two, and there's a lot of traffic up and down that street. As we are trying to back out or pull out of this driveway, you cannot see. When I first saw this being built, it was at the stage that you see in picture number 2 where there was frames. I called the city and I asked if this was in violation. As was indicated, there have been 2 separate stop work orders issued on this project, and they've continued to work with it to the point where it is now. The fact that they have ignored stop work orders and simply proceeded forth at their own risk to the point that they now have a completed building, I do not think should be able to allow them to get away with this and just say, oh, well, it's built now, so we'll just let it be. We cannot see coming in and out of this property. As you can see from the pictures, I think it is photograph number 9. It shows that is the setback from those columns that are the front edge of that property facing Washington. Photograph 8 is looking from Washington down the parallel property line between our house and this daycare center to show you how close it is there. And photograph number 11 shows you basically my car sitting in that driveway, backing out of that, and where you see the edge of that playhouse and how close it is and how much it is blocking the view coming out onto Washington Avenue. There is more than enough room to move this playhouse back. The idea that there was an existing structure there that this simply replaced is not an accurate statement. There was simply some 4x4 posts with a little roof that is simply some slats, which is simply a little sandbox, which was what was there before, and I've got photographs of that. This is a completely different structure, both in size and in nature than what was there before, and it is not a replacement structure of what was there. So I am strongly asking that the board not allow this, and there's more than enough room to move this to a different location that would still provide for the access for the playhouse to exist without creating a danger for us coming in and out of the property.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Bert, looking at picture, do you have these? Okay. Looking at picture 11, do you have a?
I have a set of those here.
Okay.
I've seen the other photographs.
Okay, but I just want to address this one. Is the main building, it looks like it is built right up to the sidewalk almost. Well, very clear. Is it, how close off the property line is the main building, I guess I'm saying?
It looks like it might be 5 feet or less.
Okay.
And under the new code, that would be allowed.
Okay, so let's say in addition to the building could be built, or the building could be expanded, let's say theoretically, at that same setback all the way up to this gentleman's property?
It could be built up to front property line and the side property line, subject to fire code, yes.
Okay, but the issue is that under the DDD is that it's considered an outbuilding, which is an unattached structure.
Right.
Is that
Yes.
technically correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions of the board?
Yeah, one more question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Davis is
Oh, I'm sorry.
proceeding.
That's all right, go ahead, you ask the same
Mr.
question.
Metcalf.
No, I'm just curious, and I hear what you're saying, but is your primary complaint, is it line of sight, or is it the fact that there's another building there?
Line of sight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Davis?
That's my question.
Is line of sight because when you are trying to back out of that driveway, you just can't see. And you're backing out into Washington Avenue blind.
But it can't be relocated.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. It can't be relocated on the site.
It can be going straight back.
Yes,
And
sir.
There's plenty of room to do it.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I have a question
Additional
for
discussion? Yeah.
staff.
Mr. Golden?
Bert, could they, along with the fences on the property line, not the right-of-way, I mean, he could put up a fence today, couldn't he? A wooden fence?
There would be a fence allowance, but it would depend, again, on the frontage. So you're in a T4 district, and in a T4 district, the maximum fence height would be 4 feet in the front area. So they have a 4-foot high fence along that front property line. The fence that's there now would not comply with the new regulations.
But this, on the property, the adjoining property line, not the front.
Well, on the side property line, they can go up to 6 feet on the side and the back, but along the street property line, it's a 4-foot height limit.
4 foot, not 3?
4-foot height limit along the front property line.
Okay.
But could run the entire adjoining property line, or as you get to the right-of-way, is it limited?
It would be the entire front property line along Washington or the side street, but then as it wraps around the building, it can then increase in height up to 6 feet, all the way around the rest of the property.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, one more question, and it may be for the applicant.
Sir,
What are
have
the
a seat.
dimensions of this building? I'm looking at the photos, and it looks like that someone is standing, so let's say 6 feet, and it's right at the eave?
It's 5'8" at the top of the peak.
At the top of the peak?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it at the eave?
Eaves right, hits me right about here.
So about 5 feet?
Yeah, somewhere around there, 6'4", so,
Okay, so that's you there?
yeah.
Okay, so it's a small,
Yeah, it ain't big.
and the perimeter
Perimeter's
dimensions?
120 square foot. Well, really, it's 118. It,
So it's 18 by 10 or something?
It's
Okay,
10 by 11 and
Oh.
11 foot 6 inches.
okay, so 10 by 12.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Before you sit down, the storage is on either side of the doorways, and then you've got like a passageway through it, is what I understand?
The front half where you see the window,
Yeah.
that's a little area for the kids to play in. It's gonna have countertop inside of it where they can play like they're cooking. And then the back half on the side facing the back of the property, there's a door there. They can put their tricycles in during Mardi Gras time because they tend to end up on the streets. So they can use that for storage for putting them up.
How do the tricycles end up on the streets? I'm confused.
People jump the fence, grab them, and start running them.
I was thinking the kids were leaving.
No, Yeah.
Yeah, the visitors to the property.
Yeah.
So you secure the
Yeah, the tricycle.
toys and everything?
Yeah.
Where did they secure things? I guess they didn't in the past.
They didn't.
Take
They
it
ended up
inside?
all over the place.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is this daycare, is it private, or is this a public facility? Okay, do y'all own
Direct
the,
your question to gentleman at the podium.
yes, do y'all own the property? Own the real estate?
Yes, I think I think you're right about that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Davis?
for my benefit, if you can ask traffic engineer,
Now you
their
proceed.
opinion. Can I get your opinion on where we are right now in light of the discussion?
Without having firsthand seen it myself, I cannot give you a very clear answer. However, you've seen from the pictures that there are various impediments that are existing. The buildings in both directions the oak trees, the wall with the wall with the iron fence and the solid fence to the other directions. There are a lot of impediments for that one particular driveway, but I cannot give you a clear answer whether or not it is a line of sight or not.
I guess specifically, I should have asked this. Testimony was given that the access to the property next door was from the Monroe Street side, and we are being told by the owner now that that's not the case. There's only one way in and one way out, and that's on the Washington Avenue side, which is a very serious concern of this vote.
My quick review, Google Street View, which is what everyone knows to be true and correct, it appears as though this is the only driveway. It appears as though the property is fenced in with privacy fence on Monroe side. So the driveway, as the owner stated, is his only driveway on Washington.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay. All right, well, we've had a lot of discussion. Any further comments?
I've got one other question. If we were to hold this over, would it give you the ability to go, have the department go out there and give us a clear determination of the safety hazard or potential for a safety hazard or not?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Do we have anything in the file from the CRC specifically stating there? Maybe I didn't see it initially.
I don't think it's in the file, but I can get a letter provided.
Okay.
Mr.
right.
Chairman, one more.
Yes.
Sir?
Yes, please.
If you were, if you denied this and you had to remove that building, which is what we're talking about, what would you do?
We would have to pour a different foundation back there to meet the requirements now.
You'd have to move it back, correct?
Yeah, we'd have to move it back, and then we'd have to tear down the sandbox area and remove the slide area to be able to do it.
Or move the slide area?
Yeah, we'd have to move it too.
So basically, you would move your playground up toward the front, and then stick the building in the back?
You're right.
Okay.
That and probably put a privacy fence up down the property line.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, you have anything to add since we've had the gentleman?
I want to say is that I do not agree
If you'll come to the podium.
with the comments about the height of the buildings and saying 5'8" at the peak. That is not true. This building is at least 7 to 8 feet high at the peak of that building. When you can see that from this framing as well as the pictures with the gentleman standing next to it. You know, if he's almost 6 feet, you can see the peak of that roof is another 2 feet above his head. So any suggestion that it's, you know, less than 6 feet, I strongly disagree with.
Okay. All right, thank you again. Discussion of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we hold it for 30 days.
Second.
To allow engineering to go over and look at and give us a better determination of any safety hazard as far as driving out line of sight issues.
Okay, and also ask that we have CRC's statement in writing for the record, their concerns or comments.
Second thing.
Okay, can you modify your motion?
Sure. I would make a motion that we hold it over for 30 days to allow traffic engineering time to determine if there are any safety hazards with line of sight, and also to provide the written determination from the CRC.
Okay, and Mr. Davis, okay, we have the motion with a second for a holdover. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Yes, we're going to take a 3-minute break at the request of a board member, and then we'll reconvene. The next one's recommended for recommended for denial. Next one was recommended for approval, and the last one for denial. So,
Recommendations for denial.
there are a lot more of those.
Those labels need to work together.
Yeah, I could get one. Put a fence up.
That means serious label. And he's technical on the issues of general. Before he writes about it.
I'll show you. Here's a building. He's got a site right here of his own. So, all this, he's got self-imposed on the site. Anyway, that'll come up next time, hopefully.
If you
No, I don't. Yeah, we do. We keep the pictures. Yeah. I'll put those in file. I'm gonna put these pictures in the file for next time, because I identified something I didn't see early on in that discussion. That was, which application? When you do the site review on that last application, look at both sides, the occupants, the adjacent neighbor's address, and the structure, because there's some question about line of sight on both sides. All right, thank you. Everybody back?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to reconvene. Board of Adjustments back in order here. We're on application 6, correct, which is 6236, 6237, 6238, 6135, 6136, 6137. Dennis? If you'll name and address, sir.
I'm Dennis McLeod. Address is 1420 Regency Oak Drive, S 36609, and my agent will answer any questions.
And your name and address, sir?
Tim Spafford, 1263 Lake Circle West, Mobile, Alabama.
Okay, have you been seeing the staff's recommendation for approval subject to conditions? That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're, as applicant's representative, you're in agreement with those conditions? Yes. No question, no disagreement with any of them?
We have one additional request.
Is it part of our initial application?
It's pertaining to that.
Okay. If you'll clarify.
Okay, this Board of Adjustment request is in conjunction with a PUD application, and we would ask that the 6-month time frame for obtaining a permit start with the final approval of the PUD application.
Okay. How does that work, folks?
It comes with the Planning Commission's meeting this week, and it's recommended for approval in conjunction with the prior applications. The 6-month time period is both in the zoning ordinance and in the Board of Adjustments bylaws. So you'd have 6 months from this week within which to obtain a permit.
Yeah, we've also got to obtain approval from ALDOT, and that's been a problem getting proper response from them. It's kind of like AlDOT is what is West City, and the city's waiting on AlDOT. And just so they work concurrent.
Well, your option is after you get close to the 6-month period and you're still not having any success, you back for an extension of the variance.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, I mean, part of our, until the PUD is signed off on.
Sounds like that's gonna be within a week, so you're not gonna lose but a week, possibly.
I believe the PUD you have to wait 2 weeks after it's approved.
No, that's
That's just planning. That's this.
That's the Board of Adjustment. You have to wait 15 days. Now, if the PUD needs any revisions, you have to revise the plan and submit it.
Okay. You're okay with that?
It'd be nice if they started at the same time, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Sometimes the order gets a little, but for the most part, you're actually on a better schedule this way, it sounds. So
Well, I mean, we're here because
usually
we
it comes to them and then it comes to
overlooked
us.
that. Yeah, okay.
Well, you'll have until August 4th, but we can set a calendar and contact you the end of June if you don't have a permit for you to file your extension.
So other than that, you're in agreement with the staff's recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board? For the formality of the meeting, anyone in the audience either in favor or in opposition to this application? Okay, we have none for the record. As stated, staff recommends approval subject to conditions. The applicant's in agreement. Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, I just want to advise you, don't let that 6 months expire. Don't let it catch you.
If I may, under our rules, section 6.4, time limit on a permit. Unless otherwise specifically stated by the board, a variance authorized by the board shall expire if the applicant fails to obtain appropriate permits pursuant thereto within 6 months. Since it says unless otherwise specifically stated, it's my opinion that since this is not in the statute, this is in y'all's rules, y'all can extend that to 12 months or whatever would be coincide with the PUD. So that would be a lot easier on him instead of coming back to make a condition of approval that it be tied in with the timing of the PUD.
Okay, what was your initial thought from a time period?
The PUD is a 1-year limit, so if they're the same, that's fine.
Okay, is there any question of the board or opposition to that time period? Okay. All right. Once again, Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval, subject to that the time frame for expiration is 1 year from today instead of 6 months.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on I think the last application for today. Is that correct? 6239, Smith Clark Associates. Your name and address, sir?
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Clark. I'm with Smith Clark Associates, and I represent Mr. Price here, Price Properties.
Okay, and your application has been recommended for denial. Can you tell us what we ought to consider otherwise?
Sure. This property was a dentist's office, and it has been vacant for at least 10 years now. Nobody's interested in occupying this space for any kind of use, and my client has a prospective leasee that would like to sell automobiles through the internet. The current zone does not allow any kind of automobile sales in his zone, and we've been denied zoning change. This will not be a typical, or won't be a car lot at all. There will not be any cars put out on the front for sale, labeled for sale. The only traffic will be when someone does buy a car, they'll drop the car off there, the person will come, sign the paperwork, pick it up at most. They expect to sell a few cars a month, and some of the cars will actually be delivered to the consumer. It won't even come through this site. It's mainly just an office space. And so for that reason, we would like a variance to operate it as an office space for these sales. A similar one was presented to you in December, I believe, and it was very much the same situation, and it was approved.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that, Mr. Chair, that was the one in Midtown off not Pine Hill, but maybe Morgan.
Morgan Street, yeah.
Yeah, it was the business office for a company that has car lots, I think.
That's right, I remember.
On Pine Hill, okay.
Hi.
That was the one that had a question with the surface too, I think.
Right, the surface and the antique saw that was on that property.
Okay, any questions of the board for the applicant's rep and the applicant himself?
How many people will be in the office, working in the office? Not customers coming or anything like that, but, you know, I'm looking at the parking. If we have, how many employees there operating out of it?
As I understand it now, there's only a couple people tops that would actually work there on a day-to-day basis.
All right.
It may not even be that many.
Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, pretty typical
Yes,
business.
as we understand it, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me point out that they did come before the Planning Commission for rezoning to B3. The Planning Commission has held that case over so that they can make this application to the board. The Planning Commission feels that this is the better route rather than trying to rezone the property.
Yeah, I was looking at, it appears there's a section of property that's, thinking to the northeast, that's B3, and then there's a buffer that's in between them.
Yes, and that B3 is a remnant, of course, from when Moffett Road was widened. So.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of the board? Okay, we have some gentlemen in the back. Are you either in favor or opposition today?
We are in favor. We represent the tenant who is prepared to sign a 5-year lease on this piece of property if the variance is granted. And the answer is right now I have 2 employees.
Sir, if I take any further comment from you, I've got to have you come in and give your name and address. Okay. It's hard for her to keep minutes otherwise, so. Okay, any other questions? We have 2 gentlemen in the auditorium that's in favor as well, and none in opposition. All right. Discussion of the board. Okay, Chair, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve with stipulation that there's no retail presence of used or new vehicles on site.
So no vehicles on site, like over a 24-hour period or something like that? Is that what you're?
Sounds reasonable.
So no overnight storage, does that comply with your business
That
plan?
that should. I imagine they can't control exactly when the car would be dropped and when the person would show up, but they don't, by no means, they plan on storing inventory there.
Correct.
And they're not going to put stickers on the windows, you know, with payment plans or banners or anything like that. It was not the intent, so it won't. It will hardly look any different than, you know, when the dentist was there and could have 8 cars there at any point during the day. They'll just be parked waiting for the person. So.
Was there any conditions on the last application we had in December that we ought to be consistent with? I think the only condition we had was the removal of the sob.
Yeah. Yeah, the classic car.
Yeah.
Antique, that was in 1985. I took them to
Yes.
Property shall only be used for clerical office uses associated with automotive sales, and there shall be no storage, display, or sale of vehicles from this location.
That language is good.
Okay, we'll copy and paste.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I have a motion to approve with that condition. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Good luck
Thank
to
you.
gentlemen, too. All right, we have any other business for today? Yes.
You have one appeal. The use variance for the car wash was appealed. So we do not have a court date at that time, and we'll keep the board posted.
Okay. All right. Any other business? Yes.
Is that for our decision? Or is that,
It's the decision that was appealed to y'all.
Was not, there was no action taken on the administrative review. What was appealed was the denial, the use variance.
Right, which is what we did here.
Correct.
And they had the 15-day appeal period, and they filed.
And they filed timely,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Any other questions or business today? All right. Motion to adjourn? All right. Good seeing y'all.
And what is different than any other day?